guys, and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to another Doctor Who episode review. And in today's video we're gonna be basically reviewing a explosive episode, Doctor Who Season 1 Episode 3, Boom. Written by the wonderful, the amazing, the man who actually got me into Doctor Who, Steven Moffat. Yes, that is a bit of a nostalgia there. If you guys don't know, Series 5 was my first full series that I watched from start to finish in its full glory. So Matt Smith was technically my Doctor, because essentially he was the first Doctor that I watched from the first story to the last story without basically missing out episodes and stuff. After I watched Matt Smith era, I basically ended up then going back and watching all of the David Tennant era and the Christopher Eccleston era and the TV movie and stuff like that when it was available on iPlayer. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a backstory. But yeah, Steven Moffat is back, and he has brought back with him, oh yeah, he's done a great job on this new story, and today we're going to cover everything about it, including the acting, from the acting to the set building, to the costumes, to the sound effects, to the visual effects, to the actual practical effects they used in this. We're going to go over everything, including the storyline too, obviously. You've got to go over the writing and the music and basically everything worthy of being noted in this episode. So this is going to be a bit of a big review on this episode of Doctor Who. But if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on the post notifications. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. It's been a lifelong goal of mine to get to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, so please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be reviewing every single episode of New Doctor Who, including future series as well. I've got a lot of Doctor Who content on the horizon, I suppose you could say. As I'm going to be reviewing all of the Doctor Who episodes. I also have on order the 14th Doctor's Sonic Screwdriver prop replica. That is currently on order right now and will be delivered to me, hopefully, fingers crossed, this year. Because if I can get that this year, as soon as I get it, I'm going to be making a full in-detail review on that prop replica. And you're going to want to see that, because genuinely I don't think many people have it, because it is such an expensive piece. Plus, yeah, how many of them people who are going to actually go out after spending that much money on a prop replica and make a YouTube video and a review on it in as much detail as possibly I would, is anybody's guess. So definitely stick around and hit that subscribe button. Hit the post notification bell too, because I'm making a lot of content on this channel. I do make films and stuff too, so who knows, you may like some of my other content as well. And if you don't, then Doctor Who content is coming pretty regularly. So yeah, but all of that over and done with, let's get into this actual episode, and let's start off by talking about the actual plot line of this episode. So the episode actually opens with a sort of cliffhanger, almost establishing this planet which we are on. And yeah, I gotta say, beautifully looked planet. I think it looks really, really good, and it came out really, really well on the episode. And just the idea of how the planet was put together, I think it just looks really, really good, and it fits the war-torn style of this episode quite a lot. So big thumbs up on that one. So we start off introduced to a blind soldier who has a little girl in base camp with a bunch of other characters who we're going to get onto a little bit later. But we also have another soldier as well, and essentially this first two soldiers end up dying. One of them steps on a landmine, which sets up the next part of this episode, and he dies instantly, just disintegrates into nothingness. And I've got to say, the visual effects on that were really, really nice as well. So yeah, very, very cool. After that, the blind soldier essentially comes face to face with the ambulance. Now, the ambulance is played by an actress called Susan Twist, and apparently she's been cropping up in a lot of Doctor Who recently. I mean, she literally popped up in Wild Blue Yonder, apparently. She was in the Isaac Newton scene in Wild Blue Yonder. She popped up in The Church on Ruby Road as somebody who was basically in the whole concert scene, well, dance scene, I suppose. Well, not that, but like, I know Ruby was like playing some theme on a piano, and she asked Ruby to play something, I guess. Something along the lines of that. Then, going back into this, we have Space Babies, as she was one of the captains that cycled through on the ship. And then, after that, very recently, she's in The Devil's Cord as a tea lady. And that is very, very cool. And now she's reprising her role again as Ambulance, who is kind of a villain in this. Not really. It's just more of an AI interface, which is very, very cool, and a very, very nice concept, which ties it into modern day stuff as well, which I think is very, very cool, and really, really Stephen Moffat too, which I think is very, very cool, if I didn't say that enough already. But yeah, carrying on with the story, comes face to face with Ambulance and gets fixed, aka killed. So, you got this blind man and he's been killed. He screams as he's being killed, and the Doctor hears this scream. Now, I want to say, the visual effects for that little shot of it, the camera swooping through a big fireball to the TARDIS, absolutely amazingly done. I've got to say, that was genuinely, it's one of them shots that I was just like, yes, beautiful shot. And I absolutely loved it. So, massive thumbs up for that shot alone. But then the Doctor essentially rushes out the TARDIS to go and help, and ends up accidentally stepping on a landmine. And this is where he remains for the rest of the episode, which I think is very, very cool, and I think it's a really, really nice concept that they keep the Doctor in one spot. Like, he can't really do anything about it, he's just stuck there. And I guess this is a really, really good episode to save a bit of money. You've got the episode entirely set in this one location, so you are saving a bit of money there in production costs, but also I think it's a really, really cool way of doing it. They could have made a very, very boring story, but this was very, very interesting. It was very, very far from boring. Anyway, once the Doctor has stepped on the landmine, basically the title sequence plays, and then we get Ruby, who basically came to find the Doctor, and is told, after figuring out this whole landmine situation, is told to go ahead and find something heavy, in which she finds the essentially dead body of the blind soldier who had just recently been killed. She takes it down to the bottom of the pit, and there's this really, really nicely shot moment where she has to exchange it to the Doctor at the same time as he puts his foot on the floor to basically distribute the weight evenly, so that essentially the landmine doesn't know any weight has changed, so it doesn't like 100% get that there is a living thing on the actual plate, which is very, very clever, and I love the way that they shot this, just with the flashing lights, the lights flashing and flickering, and that cutting into shots of the Doctor. I think it was just beautifully done. And I've got to say, Ncuti Gatwa did an absolutely phenomenal job at acting this scene out. Just the tears rolling down his face because of the sheer terror of this scene. It's just absolutely amazing. And I've got to say, huge props to Ncuti Gatwa for the acting in that. It genuinely blew me away when I was watching it, which is amazing. So then, after this, you get the little girl from the beginning of this, and she comes across a hologram of her dad, which is projected from this dead body sort of thing that's essentially there. And I've got to say, this is a nice idea, and it uses AI and future technology, blends it into the real world as well, makes it feel a little bit more realistic and grounded of an episode, but keeping a very, very high and heavy sci-fi style to it, which I think is really, really cool. So, obviously, there's this whole kerfuffle, I suppose, about all this kind of stuff, and then eventually another soldier from the little encampment comes down. And fun fact, she is played by the same person who played a character in Andor. Can't remember her name fully, but I do also know that she is cast to be the companion, a brand new companion in season 2. And I don't know if this is going to link to this character that she plays in this episode, or whether it's going to be completely different, but I think that's just a really, really nice touch that, you know, I wasn't expecting that at all. I was there and I was like, she seems very familiar, and I watched Andor, and I've got to say, Andor was a phenomenal series in itself, and I really, really enjoyed that series, so to have her come in from that, I think she did a great job in Andor as well, so I'm really, really looking forward to seeing her, you know, reprise her role, potentially, or become the companion. So, very, very good thing. But yeah, she did a phenomenal job in this episode specifically as well. I think she played a very, very good role and acted it very, very well. So, again, very, very cool. Anyway, she is there, and there's kind of a romance going on between two characters as well. And essentially what happens is it climaxes to this part where the Doctor reveals that he is a Time Lord. So essentially, if he blows up because of this landmine, he will wipe out the entire planet. And that is when all of the characters kind of think, oh shit, we kind of need to have this not implode, but we don't know what to do. So that's very, very interesting as well. Everyone's kind of in panic, and amongst all of this, they decide to distract one of the ambulances. So this soldier character gets Ruby to shoot her, but before she can shoot her, because she hesitates, the other character, the male character, who is kind of a love interest for this other woman-like character, the one who basically is played by the same character as who was in Andor. So basically, he basically shoots Ruby, which is a really impactful moment. As her lifeless body drops down, and then we've got another moment where the snow is falling from the sky, and yeah, this is getting quite odd, but I just absolutely love the visuals for this. I think it just looks absolutely amazing. Another little fun fact as well is that I found out that the Meeps spaceship was actually used as a crashed spaceship in the background of the shot, which was on fire. Which, very, very cool little addition there. Back to the story though, anyway. So, after all this has gone down, after this has all happened, Ruby's dying, the Doctor is there, and they somehow convince the little girl's dead father to essentially go into the system and corrupt the AI. And I think this is actually a very, very cool little way of them saving the day and getting around it, which I think is very, very cool. But not before the woman's love interest and kind of guy he just dies. I guess that's just the thing. He gets killed by ambulance, and it's very, very abrupt and very, very sudden. So it does take us by surprise as an audience, which I think was very, very cool, and a bold decision to keep him dead as well. And I know there has been a lot of problems with Stephen Moffat in the past where he kind of likes to kill off characters and then bring them back in like 30 minutes time with barely any explanation. And obviously they brought Ruby back to life, but that kind of makes sense because she is the companion. It would be a bit shitty to kill her off in episode 3. So bringing her back was a great decision, but yeah, leaving the others dead, really, really good decision in there, and it does keep the impact of the deaths and the stakes very, very high in this episode. So yeah, basically they use ambulance to resuscitate Ruby and deactivate the landmine underneath the Doctor so he can eventually step off. And then there's this really, really cool moment where they're just looking out into the thing, and the Doctor's a bit bored, so he's just like, nah, let's go, which I think was pretty cool. It does definitely show how disconnected from humanity the Doctor really is. As much as he tries to be connected with humanity and fit in, he always has this little bit of, he can't stay still. He stays still long enough on the landmine, so he's like, right, off to the next place, off to the next adventure. You've seen this for like 2 minutes, cool, let's go. And I do actually really, really like this little happy ending. That it is a little bit sad because you've got 2 characters who've died who mean an awful lot to the 2 other characters in this particular shot. But in a way, they've not died. They just passed to the afterlife, which I think is just a really, really nice little thing. Not to be mistaken by the whole "don't cremate me" thing from the 12th Doctor's era. Yeah. But not that afterlife, but a different spiritual afterlife, I suppose you could say. And one that's a bit more grounded in reality, I could say, as well. But yeah, I've got to say, the whole resolution of this episode as well, the soldiers finding out that they actually weren't fighting anybody. They were just literally fighting a war to fund weapons manufacturers who would manufacture weapons that eventually would kill their own soldiers, so they would buy more weapons. And I think it's a very, very ingenious story, and it does really, really tie into some of the physical events that are happening currently here, which I think is good. I do like when Doctor Who does bring in current events. Now, don't get me wrong, if it is over political, I do think it does lose its, it does sort of taint its view a little bit. But on a personal level, I don't think it was over political at all. I think it was just very realistic and did marry up with some current events that are happening currently now, which I think is definitely good to, include things, especially like AI and, things like that. I think that is just something that keeps Doctor Who fresh and modern, which, Stephen Moffat did a great job of in this episode. So yeah, that is basically the plot of the episode. So we're going to go on to everything now. So the acting, overall, I'd say the highlights of the acting is the character from Andor. She did a phenomenal job of acting in this episode. And also Ncuti Gatwa. I've got to say, Ncuti Gatwa's got to be the main... He's got to take the limelight of this episode for me, because I think he did a phenomenal job at pulling off all the emotions in this. Not to say that Millie Gibson didn't do a good job, because she did really, really... all the acting was amazing in this episode, but I've got to say, Ncuti Gatwa just took it to that next level, and it's absolutely amazing. So, that is the acting. Now I've got to say the set design. Set design is phenomenal. Looking at the 2 sets that were used in this, you've got the army barracks, which is essentially the base. And that was shot outside of Bad Wolf Studios, and it looks absolutely amazing. They made so much of a set for it to be used less than a minute on screen. But they put so much detail into the stuff. And I really, really do admire that. The second set is the crater. And again, that set is probably one of my favourite sets on Doctor Who ever. Up there with the TARDIS. I mean, you can't beat the TARDIS, but as it goes for a set, it was so nicely put out. And again, tying in practical effects as well. Using the flames as practical effects. You got the smoke, which is like a haze. It really, it's a haze. And then obviously using the big screens, the background screens, the backdrop screens, and also a huge painting, which I think was absolutely, I think it was just really creative and a good use of new technology combined with a physical set. I'd rather they do it in a physical set than just green screen the shit out of it, because it doesn't really look as good when you green screen it all out, and this is the Disney Plus budget coming into it. The physical set looked absolutely amazing, and that is one of the reasons why I love like Doctor Who and Star Wars so much, because they do try and use as much physical locations and sets, especially with like Andor and stuff like that, because that is one that used quite a lot of physical locations and sets, and I think it does really help, you know, make it a lot more realistic and just a lot nicer to look at as well. So with all that, I've got to say, the VFX were very good, on par again. There's the actual space part looking up into the sky, beautifully done and beautifully animated too. Now I've got to say that it was just really well done, and I've genuinely enjoyed this episode quite a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and give this episode a 9.5 out of 10. I've got to give it a little bit higher than the recent episodes, because I did enjoy it more than the first two. And I think Stephen Moffat coming back and doing this episode was absolutely the right idea and the right suggestion, I suppose. And it was great. I absolutely loved the episode. So yeah, that was my honest review on Boom. And I really can't say anything bad about it at all. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I absolutely love this episode. But yeah, that's basically the end of this video, so I've got to say thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe as usual. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the post notifications as usual, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Yeah. You ready? Hey. Let's go. Bet. Yo, once again I'm back around. Real shit back in style. Haters reconcile. I'm so black and proud. First class tickets now. Feet all in the aisle. Everybody looking down. Everybody get red when you drown, huh? Looking me up. I'm putting it down, you picking it up. Checking the models, they want us to go to college just so we can be stuck. Go to school to make a living, or teach yourself to make a fortune. Common sense, welcome to the apocalypse. Bitch, I'm one of the horsemen.